something that's been created already on the web for the bowling ball bounce, and I'll demonstrate doing the first couple of bounces. The way you want to have your project set up is to have your curve editor below and a panel up top. I want you to be working in side view. This is important because that makes it so that you have one less curve to use in each parameter. You may find the occasion to use that curve. This just limits your needing to use that curve. So if I have a simple cube up here that this bounces off of, I'm going to position this by picking the main component. Remember, you never want, unless you're placing your object in a scene, you never want to move this bottom, you can only see it in perspective view, that bottom arrow. Never move that arrow. That arrow is for positioning purposes only by your character lead. And in this scene, it makes sense to keep that arrow right there at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to go back to my side view. I'm going to pick my middle circle and place this up top. Now remember, I'm looking at this. So at frame, this is going to be the entire animation for your project is at a maximum of 10 seconds, which is 240 frames. This will take, oh, it looks like around 70 or so, because they didn't tabulate these, but I'm just going to set mine then for 70-ish for this demo. And I'm going to start here at 0 and go to 1. I'm going to put automatic keyframe on. Auto keyframe toggle. That'll set keyframes for every movement I do. Remember, I must go to the keyframe that I want to key first before I set my position, else when I do move positions, I will lose all the work I did. So I'm going to place this a little bit back so that, oops, of course I'm on the wrong one, sorry. So it fits the 1 that I have here. Then at 5, it's going to start rolling down. I'm not going to do the roll at this time. So I'm going to go to 5, position it here, so it's just starting to tip off. And notice in my reel, I'm not getting a keyframe. Why is that? So for me, I'm just going to press S because my toggle's not working, oddly. And I have to go back to keyframe 1, press my S. And it's good for you to see that things don't always work as anticipated. There's, oh, that's the thing. With auto keyframe, you have to set the first keyframe at least. Good for us to review that. Then I'm going to go to 12 because it's best for me to set my contact points than to do those in-between points as demoed on here. So I'm at 12 and it's going to make contact here. That's my 0, 0, 0 point. And since it's rolling off and it's heavy, it's probably not going to lift too far away. So I'm going to put this right about here. Look, it makes that keyframe. Now I'm going to evaluate where it is at 10 and decide that's a little low for what this drawing says. So I'm going to pull that up at 10. See how it changed my curve? Also, later on, I'm going to evaluate that slow out from this drawing, and I'm going to change my curve to reflect that. See how it's all coming together, what you've learned so far? Now, I've got 12 set, so the next keyframe here is 18. So I'm going to move to 18 and put my bounce in. 18. And I will pull it up. We noticed in our reference that the bowling ball went up just about a third of where it was prior, where it fell from. So I'm pulling it up about a third, and I'm using these boxes to help me figure that out. And then I look at my reference, and at 24 it bounces again, it makes contact. So I'm going to go to 24 and then I moved across 2, so I'll move across maybe 1 now. I'm guessing at these physics because I'm not looking at a reference video right now. But look how that's playing out here. And interestingly enough, if I translate y, is going to perfectly reflect this pretty much. The others are trickier to read, but you'll get to know them. I'll go back to my control main again, and I'm going to look at 24, 29. 29, I go up a little bit again, and I went up to about here prior, so I'll go up and estimate that. Again, without reference, this is not going to look very good, but I'll tweak things over here a bit. 29, now 34 is my next contact point, so I'll go here to 34, and I'll put this down on the ground. Okay, I'm just going to review what I got. Maybe that's all I'll do for now. Whoa! Remember what happened? When it's playing too fast like that, oh, I have to do something. I have to go to my window, settings, preferences, preferences. It's a good thing to memorize. And I have to remember that my time slider has to be set to play real time 24 frames per second. And then I have to save it. Now let's see how it's different. There you go. Looks very slow. I don't really like the timing that this person did, but let's take this down because I'm just going to work in this area for this demo. Alright, let's first start by view framing selection. And look, we got a little divot here that we can fix. This was an important divot because it told us where we wanted that 10 to be at that time, and it raised the graph a little bit to that area. So we know that it needs to be at least this high. We can potentially get rid of this if we can get everything else in line. So I'm going to select all my keyframes. I'm going to break all my tangents. I'm going to weight my tangents. Then I'm going to free my tangent weights. I'm going to concentrate mostly on my Y translate right now. So I'm going to pull that up. Now, remember in your reference, you wanted it to roll off here kind of slowly. That works here because this is slowly over time moving down. This is rapidly moving over time because there's a greater incline. Slower reflects this, rapid reflects this, which is cool. Now I'm going to break this so that it makes an impact when it hits. Then I'm going to delete this and go to frame 10, which I'm at, and see if it hurts it at all. Pulled it down a little bit, so I can correct that by pulling this up. See how that immediately reflected in the ball's placement? So that's our fall down. It's a long, slow fall. Now we're going to bring this one up. It's going to pop out a little bit. And bring this one, he's going to pop. And I'm also going to do view, frame, playback range, view, frame, selection to show you how different all these curves look like. Go back here, pop that up. You don't want it to pop higher than where it's going to float from. The reason I'm doing this is because frame selection. I am floating here because, again, there's very little movement here, but a lot of time is passing. Okay, so let's see how that changed my ball. A little more impact. So for a bowling ball, this is moving really slow. So that would be, the rate it's moving is a Z thing, a Z curve. So let's look at the translate Z and look at it moving. Ooh, it's kind of dippy. Weird, huh? boom. Moving across there, boom, 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 boom. So we know that this is going to move sort of at a different rate. But as it goes through here, it doesn't need these middle curves because it's moving at a constant. So I'm going to do something that I haven't shown you before. I'm going to give it a linear. These are all different tangents you can have. I'll demo these tangents on your Y so you see how they differ. Auto tangents is the computer just figuring out the interpolation between the movement of an object and its destination. The clamp tangents are very closely similar. Spline tangents, I mean. Clamp tangents, they hold the placement a little bit more. You can get I should just read the definitions out of Maya, but basically what you're going to be using the most of are step tangents, because you're going to block out your information. See, that's what a step tangent does. Shows you where it is at every place in time before you add your curves. We're going to start doing that when we do poses. Then you also have clamp tangents. That's what you should be working in right now, are clamp tangents. Of course, by changing that, I just ruined everything, but view, frame all, you can see how I did this again. I'm going to have it coming off. Oh, I'm not going to mess with that one. We had that placed. There you go. Fairly decent ball. We're not going to mess with our rotates, so I'm going to highlight that and delete it. The more unnecessary stuff you delete, the better off you are. Translate X you won't be using either, so it should just be translate Y and translate Z. If you use these additional pieces to add a little extra bounce, which you will on the beach ball, you're going to have additional curves to consider. This is more a challenge in learning timing and learning to work with multiple curves. I'm not going to stress you too much on your artistry at this point, because you're learning stuff. It's cool. So I'm going to play it again to see where I'm at, because I got to catch up. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I think it's going really slow. So I'm going to change my translate and my Z. I'm going to select them both. And I am going to scale them all at once so it happens much quicker. I'm going to scale it down to about 26 and play it. I want it even faster than that. It is a heavy bowling ball. Let's see what it does at 14. It's a big thing in animation since the days it first began that artists would draw out what they thought was correct, almost like this. And then they push it and get it down to as few frames as possible. And they discover that the magic really happens in the editing. I'll try to find some examples of this. But we'll see this in the yawn that I'll show with Richard Williams. Or you might want to look up that in your book, the Richard Williams yawn, where an animator drew it out, I believe, at 24 frames, then cut it down to perhaps 6 or 8, and it became much more effective. This is just creativity in motion, figuring out that timing. So actually, I like that a little bit better. It's a little fast, but it feels more like a bowling ball. The tools I demoed to you are basically the tools that you're going to need to understand to do this assignment. You're just going to be working with multiple balls and possibly a few extra curves if you work with these. Remember that you're not going to see the curves for this one when you select this one. or this one. Each of them operates unique of the other selection. Unless you have them all selected, then they all show up here. Let's practice that with your assignment.